Good morning. It is Sunday, right after UFC 284. We probably should be talking about Super Bowl, but nobody can even think about that after last night's main event card at UFC 284 in Perth, Australia. We ended up the night with 3 finishes and 2 decisions. And then the main event between Makhachev and Volkanovski has a lot of people polarized, and we're going to share our thoughts about, was it a robbery? Did Makhachev deserve that decision win? And how can we break it down ourselves? As always, I'm Kaci, joined by...
And I'm Taylor. Hey, great intro.
Thank you. Now let's get into it, bud. So,
hey, before we even get to the main, are you just gonna start the main card here?
I will start with the main card, but do you have a
before we
shout
even
out?
get to the main card? How about Modestus Bukauskas slapping down Tyson Pedro, who's the real hometown boy because his dad owns like the largest Australian/Oceanic, B League MMA organization. I watched that fight. It was great. It was a good fight.
I think I remember getting bits and pieces of that fight, and it was pretty good.
It was just 2 boys. Well, we'll get to the next one, but yeah, I thought it was great. I just didn't want to get into the main card before that. But we're starting with Jimmy Crute and Alonzo Menifield.
Absolutely. We're just going to work our way from bottom to top, and then give our thoughts about the big topic of the day. All right.
Sounds
first off,
good.
One of the decisions of the night, we had a majority draw between Jimmy Crute and Alonzo Menifield. Taylor, what happened to this fight?
Well, the real story of the fight is that 2 relatively large boys got very tired, and then laid on each other for like 2.5 rounds.
That sounds about right.
So here's what I'll say. I did bet on Menifield because Jimmy Crute said he was going to go in there, and he was sounding like he was going to make this into a striking match, and he went in there, shot a takedown right away, and I was like, "Ooh, this could be bad for me." And then Alonzo Menifield did a great job in rounds 1 and 2, and just Jimmy Crute tired out, gassed out, and Alonzo Menifield definitely took the first 2 rounds, clearly, almost had Jimmy Crute finished at the end of one of them, and a few times throughout the fight, and I thought he looked great. Unfortunately, he kind of got laid on the 3rd round, just was out of energy and couldn't get up, but Jimmy Crute literally too tired to throw ground and pound after getting the takedowns. And then at one point, Alonzo Menifield grabbed the cage. And I don't know if he had been warned earlier. I was in some stream issues, but Mark Not So Goodard took a point away in a round that Alonzo Menifield lost on basically lack of activity because Jimmy Crute had slightly more activity because he was laying on him. And we ended up with a 10-8 round in the last, which was... You know what? It's MMA.
You hate to see it, but yeah, that weird stuff like that can happen at any time. Overall, though, I think our thinking for the fight was pretty spot on.
Yeah, I'd say aside from Jimmy Crute going out there and going for the takedowns, in terms of how they matched up, I think that was good. Nothing you can do about the prediction that... If somebody out there predicted, I think Jimmy Crute's going to lay on him the 3rd after Alonzo Menifield wins the first 2, and then Alonzo Menifield's going to do a cage grab and lose a point, and it's going to go to a draw, then good job. Tell me how you did it. But other than that, I think that our analysis was solid, and it's how the cookie crumbles.
Fair enough. All right, on to the next one. Justin Tafa versus Parker Porter. We had Justin Tafa with a first-round knockout. Taylor,
I think it was a first punch knockout.
So
listen, Parker Porter never got to show his stuff. That was the issue here.
That's fair enough. I was kind of right though. The bad man was in his hometown and he came out swinging and he got him. Just connected hard and sat him down.
It was just Parker Porter just ran out there. What was this? Hold on, let's see here. This was a minute and 6 in. It wasn't the first punch, but yeah, Parker Porter was going in and he just got clipped, and that was the end of it.
That's how it happens.
I remember you being like, you looked away for a second and you're like, oh wait, the fight's over? What happened?
Yeah, I had to go back and rewatch that one.
I don't feel terrible.
Heavyweight's gonna heavyweight, man. That's all I gotta say.
It's how it goes.
I actually ended up winning one of these bets with $50 on Tafa for the knockout. So
on a plus 165, yeah.
Yeah, that turned into like $137 or something.
I think your strategy was okay here.
Yeah. All right, next one. Jack Della Maddalena and Randy Brown. This was a first-round finish by Jack Maddalena, and you might be looking at my bet and thinking, Casey, what the heck? He finished in first round, but you didn't win your bet? No, because Jack got a submission win.
Yeah, this throws me back to when Yuri Prohaska submit Glover Teixeira, and I was like, that's it. I'm just never doing this nonsense again. Jack's got submission wins in his record, and that's just how you got to finish the fight sometimes.
He does, but I'm slightly salty about the actual bet
too now, because
it really started with just Jack cracking him and then following him to the ground, did some ground and pound. Ref didn't stop it there, so we threw in the I think it was a triangle, wasn't it? Or was it a rear naked choke?
I think he finished it with a rear naked.
Yeah, either way.
He basically knocked him down. Randy gave up his back, and Jack was like, all right, fine. If you're going to give me the neck, I'll take it. That's a finish. I don't need to try and, exhaust myself beating you up and then risk you coming back and, make
exactly. Yeah, once he put him down on the ground, it was basically over from there. So, Taylor, good on you for the learning your lessons from Yuri Prohaska.
Safe bet on Jack. Yeah, although, I just saved $100 is all I did there.
I mean,
Jack's looking great. Putting down Randy Brown in the first round like that, I really thought that Randy Brown was going to give him a little bit more trouble, but he knocked him down pretty fast, and then didn't knock him out again and finished it off. And good job, Jack Della Maddalena. I think the kid's going places. I don't think Randy Brown is ranked, but I think we're looking at a top 15 opponent.
Absolutely.
Maybe, who's at the end of the welterweight top 15 right now? Michelle Pereira, maybe. Let's see. Welterweight number 15, Li Jing Liang. God, no, don't send Li Jing Liang to Jack Della Maddalena. Please don't.
Yeah, but, Jack's on fire right now. Whoever he fights in the top 15, they're gonna have their work cut out for him.
Michelle Pereira is coming off a win to Santiago Ponzinibbio, who I think that knocked him out, and he's got a next fight against Sean Brady. Neil Magny coming off a loss to Gilbert Burns. Sad to see Neil Magny, but I think that he doesn't have a fight booked right now. He's the only one up all the way until Luque, who's coming off a loss to Jeff Neal. I guess give him Magny.
Fair enough.
I would be okay with giving him Luque, honestly. I think that Jack wins that fight, but just don't give him Li Jing Liang. But Li Jing Liang's already booked against Michael Chiesa, so.
Yeah, great performance from Jack in the hometown crowd again. Fantastic. All right, on to the next one. We have the co-main event. We got Yair Rodriguez submitting Josh Emmett.
Yep.
Was a second round submission?
Yeah.
I believe so.
I believe that was. Yeah, they had a good scrap in the first round. I mean, Josh Emmett definitely landed some shots. Hurt Yair Rodriguez a couple of times at the fight, but I think Yair Rodriguez hurt Josh Emmett as well. And eventually, Yair Rodriguez just got it. They got into a scrap. I don't remember who knocked down who at the end there, but it ended up with Yair Rodriguez closing it out with a triangle choke.
Yeah, I mean, as the commentary team said, Yair Rodriguez is just a different kind of fighter. He just attacks it a different way. You could see it with this one. Emmett was definitely going with that more traditional boxing stance, and then Rodriguez was just kind of all over the place and just connected, put him down, and then got the submission.
Yeah, and he did throw a lot of kicks. I did feel like it was going to be a head kick knockout. I think that maybe if the fight had gone longer, that was a possibility, especially watching, their interactions. But
yep,
kind of went that way. Rodriguez just had more diversity to his attacks, and it wasn't a Hail Mary submission. It was a carefully placed and,
well
got
earned.
To the end and finished it. Yeah, well earned. And I think that if he had decided to keep it standing up, then he could have finished it eventually on the feet as well, but didn't need to. So we'll see. I guess we already know what's next. Volkanovski for Yair, I guess, is what we're going to see.
Yep, looking forward to that fight for sure. All right, with that said, on to the main event of the evening. We have Islam Makhachev winning a unanimous decision over Alexander Volkanovski after going the distance. How do you feel about our bets on this one?
I'm not mad. I think I put a good bet down. Listen,
that's a good bet, especially when we were talking about plus 310 for Volk.
310. Okay, so Makhachev wins the first round. I think that.
Hold on, we'll get into that for a second. I got something for you.
Yeah.
I think, especially now that we've seen the fight, looking at the odds that we got going in, these were really good odds for us that we're trying to bet on Volk. Like, fantastic. Absolutely just like chef's kiss. At the same time, though, neither of the guys finished the fight, which means it went to the judges, which means anything can happen, let's be real. So, here are the scorecards.
There he is. There's my boy Derek Cleary.
We have.
Is he being investigated, or is he just the one? He's had some. I can't remember what else he's been doing. But tell me about it. What do we have?
All right, so we have two judges scoring the fight, 48-47 for Makhachev, and then we have our final judge scoring it 49-46 for Makhachev. So across the scorecards, the judges gave round 5 to Volk unanimously. Other than that, the majority of the judges gave round 3 to Volk. So, let's look at the stats. Here's are the official UFC statistics. To look round per round at significant strikes purely, it looks pretty evenly matched, if not Volk being more active and then throwing more volume, but then not landing as high of a clip rate. But then in that 5th round, you see Volk definitely outperforms. Round 3 looks like a bit of an outperformance from Volk as well. And then the real question here is round 2. And then there's a lot of debate right now on how do you score round 4. So Taylor, tell us what happened in round 4.
I mean, the general story of that was, right, Islam Makhachev was on Volk's back for a couple of minutes. Does it show us the stats?
3.5 minutes.
3.5 minutes. He was not credited with any submission attempts.
That is correct. He was credited with 0 submission attempts for the entire match.
And I think Volk, I know you have significant strikes up there, but I think just strikes, round 4, I think Volk, is that round 4 up there? Because I think, yeah, Volk
that won is round
the
4
strikes
there.
in round 4, 164 to 95. He won the...
This is where these stats kind of get a little haywire. So, round 4 was 3.5 minutes of Islam being on the back of Volk, and then he had a leg triangle around the body, and then he had his foot up against the cage, which was really preventing Volk from getting out at all. However, after he got that, he proceeded to not really do anything. He tried hand fighting with Volk, in which case Volk was handily winning, and then also just peppering him with a flurry of punches to the head that he was actually like leaning away from and trying to stop. There was a point where it looked like he was trying to get an arm around Volk's neck, and he literally just gave that up entirely to defend his own head.
Yeah,
so
and
we only have
Volk the whole time was talking to him.
Yeah, and punching him the whole time, which is why
and
if you look
to
at
his corner,
that's
saying, "Oh, all right, I'm good. Don't worry, he ain't threatening me. Don't worry, getting up, I'll get there."
Correct. So if you look at the difference between the significant strikes and the total strikes, Volk has way more total strikes than the significant strikes, and a large chunk of that comes from that round 4. So the question there is, how do we judge rounds like that?
So do you want the rules answer?
I got the rules answer, but I also, to be honest,
right,
I think the rules are a bit
answer.
The rules are a bit unclear, to be honest. Hit me with it. What do you got?
So, rules is all about damage-based scoring, right? Grappling only comes into play if damage is equal in the round, right? So, the question is damage equal? If so, we're going to go to effective grappling. So, let's say, purely for the sake of argument, the damage is equal, and we're going to go to the sake of grappling. It has to be effective grappling. What makes something a dominant position to you?
Dominant position is something that leads, to me, is something that gives you such an advantage that it's just like it's unovercomable, and typically is going to be the end of a fight. It is the starting to an ending sequence.
It's something that's going to help you do more damage to your opponent or finish the fight in another way, such as a submission. And while I understand that generally speaking, you want to take the back, if you're on somebody's back and it appears that they are actually the one who is gaining an advantage from it because they are punching you in the face repeatedly and you are not achieving anything. I don't think that's a dominant position. And I don't think you should look at it as such.
Correct. So looking back, I've rewatched the fight. I've watched review videos from Weasel, MMA Guru. I've been reading a bunch of the tweets from other professional fighters, seeing some other commentary teams talking about it. And then what I came to for round 4 was that they had a little bit of back and forth on the feet. Makhachev got a takedown and then put himself in a position where he didn't do anything and was just sitting there doing nothing, holding the man in a position that he couldn't get out of, and then getting punched in the face repeatedly for it.
Yes,
so
and
to me, it's like...
I can absolutely no way understand how Volk was up on significant strikes, he was up on damage, he was up on total strikes. There was no submission attempts credited to Islam Makhachev in that round. While generally the back is a good position to be in this particular case, it appears to be a compromising position for Islam Makhachev because he was getting beat up there.
All right. At this point, Taylor, I want you to give me your scorecard for the whole fight. Round 1,
if I had to, round 1, Islam Makhachev.
Round 2.
Round 2 and 3, extremely close. When did Volk get that knockdown?
So this is a big point that I'm going to make. So on the official UFC stats, Volkanovski is credited for 1 knockdown in the entire fight, and that is in the 5th round.
What about the one? He got one in round 2, didn't he?
He did. He had a knockdown in round 2, and he had a knockdown in round 3. And then additionally, Makhachev effectively had a knockdown in round 1.
So Makhachev definitely round 1. I could see round 2 or 3 going either way, but such that with what happened, if you give round 2 to Volk, you got to give round 3 to Islam, and if you give round 3 to Volk, you got to give round 2 to Islam.
I completely disagree. But give me your overall scorecard, then we can get into this.
4 goes to Volk, and 5 definitely goes to Volk. So I'd give it 48-47 Alexander Volkanovski.
All right.
Maybe 49-46 if you were to give him both rounds 2 and 3. But I can see the argument in each of those rounds for Islam as well. So
the way that I see this fight is I see it 49-46 Volkanovski, but I'm willing to concede the stupid effective grappling point in round 4 because I don't think it even matters. I still think it's dumb, but I think by trying to read a bit of letter of the law, like they didn't see any. There isn't like significant damage, but there was still damage. And then, sure, we can call that a draw and go to the effective grappling. So round 4 goes to Makhachev, whatever.
No.
However,
stop. This is a recurring theme because I harp on this every time it happens. Why would you give round 4 to Islam Makhachev? On what premise? If you were going to, why would you do it?
He took the back and locked up a position on the back.
Why is taking the back good? Why do you consider that to be something that should win in the round?
Because it does not win in the round on its own. In absence of anything else, that is the decision.
Why do you think it's something that should push him over the edge to get him the round?
Give him the nod because that is according to. I'm just trying to go off precedent based on what we've seen. Is that they call it they call that the dominant position because at that point you are so far into down that grappling road that the next step is to sink a choke and win. It's literally the assist to the goal.
Okay.
I think you can absolutely.
Did he sink a choke and win, or did he almost sink a choke and win?
Didn't even try to sink a choke.
Is there anything in the official unified rules of MMA defining taking the back as effective grappling, or meaning you should win the round?
But here's what I'm going to bring in.
I understand it's a generally advantageous position.
This is a point that the Weasel really brought up in his video.
In many other cases, it's not.
All right.
What do you bring up?
So on the left,
yeah.
So on the left,
Wow,
I
okay.
have fan scoring and media scoring, and then on the right, I have some breakdowns from the Weasel's immediate reaction video last night. I watched it in its entirety, and then I personally have some issues with it, but he does go into the specific rules and brings up the actual text. And in round 4, he says, "Yeah, you gotta give it to Makhachev because by the letter of the law, that was a dominant position that was leading to a potential finish. So you got to give it to him." However, what I have on the screen right now are his breakdowns of rounds 2 and 3, where he talks about the kinds of significant strikes that each fighter had. In round 2, he credits Volk with 1 knockdown, and then in round 3, he doesn't credit anybody with a knockdown, and he kind of blames the knockdown that I say Volk has. Is he claims that Volkanovski just lost his balance, which
Islam just lost his balance.
Sorry, excuse me. Islam lost his balance, which that's where I'm going to draw a lot of contention. And this is where he talks about how if you look at the totals of significant strikes, Islam had 22, Volk had 21, and then conversely, in the third round, Islam had 15, Volk had 16. And the totals did not reflect how he scored those rounds because he was going to the rules and said that immediate damage is more important than cumulative damage, which is why with Volk with fewer strikes but a larger knockdown over heavy strikes, gave it to him. And then also with 1 heavy strike and Volk having no heavy strikes, he gave it to Islam. I see where he was going with the breakdown, but I disagree with the assessment of the strikes. When I was watching that fight back in real time, it never felt like, to me, in round 2, that Islam was really getting the better of Volk. It felt very even, but then Volk stole the round by getting the knockdown, where Islam just collapsed into an attempt on a single leg on his ankle, and then waited for a few seconds, and then finally just drove into the fence. And then, again, in round 3, the knockdown that I think is there, that was not credited by either the UFC or Weasel, was when Volk hit him square on the chin, and he fell into the fence, and then proceeded to follow him down there, landing more and more shots, and then eventually Makhachev, again, just effectively just drove from the ground through his ankles, taking him down. So in my mind, the way that I see the fight is that Islam had a knockdown in the first round, Volk had a knockdown in the second round, Volk had a knockdown in the third round, Islam was controlling but getting beaten up on the fourth, and then Volk had a dominant performance in the fifth round. Not a 10-8 performance, but still a fantastic performance to end a fight, especially one that a lot of people felt was 2-2 going into the fifth.
I see what you're saying. I think that we're ultimately, we can talk about this all day. I mean, I think the biggest problem here, and obviously people saw this a lot of different ways. I think the biggest problem here is that the rules of MMA are broken, and the 10-9 system, the 10-9 must system, and the difficulty of getting a 10-8 round and not being able to use a 10-7 or a 10-6 or a 10-5, God forbid. I think that is a fundamentally broken system, especially with Volk absolutely destroying Islam in the last round. Just being very close to finishing the fight, far more dominant than any of the other rounds, and a lot more to be said about that round than any of the rounds. And it counts as much for him as round 4 counts for Makhachev, in which Volkanovski outstruck Makhachev and was okay. I think the issue here is that, listen, I can see why the rounds were scored the way they were by the majority of the judges. But I think that that's an issue with the rules are not clear enough. And I think that very carefully following the rules, Volkanovski wins. But maybe the rules should be a little bit less stupid and hard to follow.
I think that everything you just said is entirely correct. However, I don't think that's the issue in this fight. The scoring system is kind of the worst, except for a lot of other systems, honestly. But in this specific case, I think the issue here was that damage did not trump everything. Because that's how it's supposed to go, right? Damage, then effective
damage
grappling,
trumps
then cage control time, right?
maybe this, and then so this is my second issue. One is the rules of MMA are broken. And not that I don't think that I actually like the rules. I just think that there's a better way to.
There's tweaks that we can make.
I think the 10-9 must system is stupid, and there's a better way to do it. At the same time, we've seen a lot. MMA judges are very, shall we say, selective about when damage trumps all and when damage just isn't that important.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you, if this was the same fight, but let's say it was, I don't know, let me give me someone likable. Let's take Sean O'Malley versus, I don't know, who's unlikable?
Peter Yan?
If it was Sean O'Malley versus Peter Yan, I'm just saying someone really unlikable, they would give it to Sean O'Malley. And I like Sean O'Malley. I do think he won the Yan fight. But
did you kind of get a chance to see Chael's immediate reaction
to this?
Yeah.
I did not.
Chael was saying that you absolute buffoons. You disrespected our standard industry of you disrespected a guy in his hometown after he beat the odds and put on a performance no one thought he was going to give. And at the beginning of the video, obviously, Chael's a little tongue-in-cheek, and he's like, I'm not entirely saying this, but, like, we've seen this a million times. Why don't you do it now? And he specifically brought up, like, the Brazil crowd where they were chanting, like, we will kill you or something, and then comparing it to this crowd, which, personally, I thought was the best crowd I've ever seen at an MMA event. It's not even that big of a stadium, but the place was absolutely on fire. Like, it was so loud, everyone was so hyped, and at the end of the fight, like, even everyone was still there and standing on their feet.
Yeah, it was a great night of fights. In any case, the judges said what they did. I think that no matter how you look at it, Volk put on a good enough performance that even if you're like, oh, well, even if you think that Islam won on the decisions correctly, I think that you still leave Volk as pound for pound number one. One, because he is smaller, and two, because I think he put on a better performance, even if you think that he lost the decision. Correct.
I completely agree with you. If it was up to me, I think Volk is still the number one pound for pound. And if anything, his stock goes up tremendously after this, because we've seen other people try to go for the double champ status, go up in weight, and then just get smothered like Izzy did by Jan Blachowicz. Jan actually just sat on Izzy for like 3 rounds, versus Volk was getting out of takedowns and was doing good work. So yeah, I think Volk's great. However, I think they sold this fight as number one pound for pound versus the belt. He didn't get the belt, therefore the other guy gets the status.
I think that's what they're going to do. But, I mean, it's not like Volk. It's not Volk's. Volk doesn't have the choice to give up the belt, to give up number one pound for pound or not. Correct.
This is the feeling that has been pulsating throughout the entire community, I think. Based on all of the tweets that I've seen, everyone is either saying the judges did Volk dirty, or that they don't care if he lost. He's even better than they thought.
Yeah, and he's even higher up on the pound for. He should be number 0 pound for pound.
Correct. Like this is our S tier fighter currently. Good stuff.
It is what it is. But maybe what we should do is a video on.
Here's the question for the clip though, Taylor. Did the judges rob Volk of the win? Was it a robbery?
Absolutely. And listen, it can be a close fight. It can be competitive. And it can still be a robbery. In my opinion, a robbery is just the judges got it wrong. And in this case, despite it being close, despite it being competitive, the judges got it wrong.
But it's a robbery. Here's what I got to say, though. That one guy has the nerve to give it 49-46 Makhachev? What? That's just disrespectful.
I'm still mad at Derek Cleary for giving... what's his face? Jared Cannonier. I think 2 of them did. Jared Cannonier the win over Sean Strickland. So I still haven't forgiven him for that.
I don't know much about these judges, but it sounds like this guy has been a bit of an issue in the past. So
not as bad as the guy who gave Paddy Pimblett like 30-27.
Oh, in that last fight.
Yeah, who was that? I think that was the guy who like
That is one of the least popular.
He's
men
under
in the world
investigation
currently.
now for other fights. But yeah, maybe what we should be doing this week is maybe we'll make a video about a proposed better scoring system, and maybe about how the judges decide. Sometimes damage trumps all, and sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
So
either way, what do you think of the fan scoring here? So let's take a look. So 43% of the fans have it as Volkanovski defeats Makhachev 48-47. 37% have it 48-47 Makhachev. 8% have it 49-46 Makhachev. And then effectively 3% of people have it as 49-46 Volkanovski. And then there's 2% there that are sitting at a draw.
That's because there's some people that are going with although people put in 10-10s, which is not a thing, but I'm looking at MMA decisions now. But yeah, some people did score 10-8 for Volkanovski in round 5. I think that wasn't a 10-8. I think it was a 10-9. I mean, it was a clear victory for Volkanovski, but it's not like Islam had nothing for him. But I could see it being a 10-8. 10-8s do specifically say they don't have to dominate the entire round for it to be a 10-8. They just have to win the round and get it to the point where they got very close to a finish, and it might have been a finish. It was very close to barely wasn't a finish. And
based on that criteria,
I think that's what we saw at the end.
Yeah, it's very reasonable to see that. I think when you look at the fan scoring, though, the biggest contention is round 2. That's where it is. They have it's Makhachev 58% and then Volkanovski 40%.
Yep,
in my mind, I thought it was closer than that. Like, yeah, Makhachev had some good shots, but at the same time, didn't get a knockdown. Volk got a knockdown. That's where I stand on that.
It is what it is.
It is what it is.
This is a sport we play, and this is what happens when it ends up going to the judges. And Volkanovski tried to not let it go to the judges, but he just needed another minute. So
fair enough.
It is what it is.
We have
Volk's still number 1 pound for pound in my opinion. You took my back. You tried to submit me. You missed out on your chance. You're done. It ends for you. You know?
Fair enough. All right, we've analyzed their performance. Let's analyze our performance. And I do have this incorrect. So Taylor did go 2 for 6 with a total of about $280. And then I went 1 for 7.
Rodriguez to win, and what was my other one? Oh, Jack Della Maddalena to win.
Yep, Rodriguez to win.
I got like $130 off that, and then like a little over.
The Jack was 130. This one was about 160. And then my only correct choice was Tafa with the knockout, which wasn't worth that much for the initial bet, but plus 165 did a decent number. It put me up to about 137. I think I have it at 132.
Finals again here. Let's see. First fight, I think that was a good analysis. I would pick the same pick again if I had to pick.
Same. I feel the same way. Analysis was correct. We just kind of got beaten by the bit of the weird stuff that happens.
That's how it goes sometimes. Next one. Heavyweights. Do I feel bad about it?
I feel
maybe
bad
I shouldn't have been picking part. Maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I should have put 100 on this. Maybe I should have done. No, I should have put 100 and no more is what I should have done. But keep going. Yep, felt good. Learned about this and just didn't feel confident enough about how this was going to go. So
I still feel good about this. If anything, the only thing I'd change up is I would go for, instead of just solely knockout, I'd go for just a finish. Which I think the only reason I didn't pick that one was because the odds were just not that great. I want to say it was like minus 200 or something.
I think Jack Della Maddalena overperformed. I think that Jack Della Maddalena at minus 325, looking back, it's fair odds.
Yeah. Go, main.
I like what I did. I wasn't confident. I saw Rodriguez. I could see him winning all 3 ways, but I did feel pretty strong that Rodriguez was going to win. I kind of had an inkling, wasn't reasonable, but a head kick, so I took it for what it was.
I definitely discounted Rodriguez's wins in the past way too much. I think Had I gone back and actually like rewatched all of the fights versus try to just do paper analysis, I might have been able to see that he's a bit of a different breed. But on paper, I feel like looking at the trends, I was in a good spot, but looking at the odds, I probably should have known something was up. But regardless, I feel all right about that one. But at the end of the day, yeah,
you only took a plus 155 bet. I mean, that's not,
it's not bad, but at the same time, I think my analysis was not where it needed to be.
I don't think Emmett for plus 155. If it was like plus 300, I would have taken it maybe. But yeah, that's where I would put him. And this last fight,
I still feel.
I feel good about it. I feel good about it. For a plus 310 for Volk to win, even if you think Islam won the fight, tell me that plus 310 on Volk to win was a bad bet. Tell me that was a bad bet, even if you think Islam won, which I don't. And it pretty much went as expected. Yeah, Islam got him down. Volk was able to get back up. He was able to hang on the ground. And not that Islam wasn't doing okay in the striking, but Volk was winning the striking. And it was just good. He was just too good for him, in my opinion. And even if you think that Islam etched out the decision, then, I mean, you still have to say that Volkanovski had a better performance. So I don't feel bad about it. It is what it is. This is why being a professional sports bettor is hard, especially in MMA.
True. All right, that's all we got for that. What do we have coming up in the near future?
Next week, we are looking at Fight Night Andrade versus Blanchfield. Fine. Let's maybe I'll make a video about that. See. Try to be more active.
Our next numbered UFC event is going to be UFC 285, March 4th. We got Cyril Gane versus John Jones making his debut at heavyweight.
That's a hot card.
That is a hot card. The next one after that, only 2 weeks later, we got Edwards Usman 3 going down in London. Take a peek at this card. So, in London, we got Leon Edwards and Kamaru Usman going back for the trilogy. Below that, we got Justin Gaethje and Rafael Fiziev. Below that, we got Gunnar Nelson and Daniel Rodriguez. We got Marvin Vettori and Roman Dolidze.
Yeah.
That should be a cool one. And then we got Jack Shore versus Makwan Amirkhani. I think, right? Then
Nathaniel Wood, Jai Herbert.
Sure. Bit of a hometown boy there. That looks like a good card to me. Let's take a peek at 255. All right, John Jones, Cyril Gane, Valentina Shevchenko, and Alexa Grasso. Ooh, Dan Hooker and Jalen Turner. Jeff Neal versus Shavkat Rakhmonov, and Bo Nickel versus Jamie Pickett.
It's Dan Hooker. God, well, there goes Drew Dober's next fight. Oh well.
Well, what were you hoping there?
I figured Drew Dober was going to be fighting Jalen Turner.
I thought Dan Hooker was going to be fighting on this last card.
Well,
didn't happen, I guess.
He's fighting on the next one. Very well. Yep, this card's pretty great.
Hey, we also even got Derek Brunson and Cody Garbrandt in the prelims.
Ian Gary, Dricus Duplessis, Bo Nickel.
We're kidding. This is
Rakhmonov, Jeff Neal. Yeah, this is going to be good. Great main card, probably good prelims, and maybe exciting fights on the.
I'd tune in for these prelims. Those look good. 286, and then after that, we got the rematch. Piera and Adesanya in 287.
Piera. Alex Pierre.
Pereira. We got Gilbert Burns and Jorge Masvidal. Kevin Holland and Santiago Ponzinibbio. Raul Rojas.
Yep.
Rob Font. We got some names on this one, too. We got some good cards coming up, man. Jeez.
We do. I'm excited.
All right. Any closing thoughts leaving this one? How do you feel about give me a rating for the card. How would you rate this card going down in UFC history?
Undercard is not the best. Main card, I mean, good fights.
That was an incredible main card fight.
The stakes were pretty low for a lot of these fights, kind of thing. I know the co-main event was a interim belt, but
I will say that one doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me either.
Yeah, so I'd say it was a good card, great fights.
Main event fight, I think, is going to go down and age very well as a fight in general to go back and watch. As far as the decision, I think it might go a little sour in the future as people think about it like, Volk got him. Anyways, it is what it is. I'd probably give it like a 6 or I'd give this card like a 6 or a 7.
Solid 7.
It was good watching, but at the end of the day, not really any big names. Very top heavy. That the main event definitely carried this thing through and through. But still at the same time, very fun watch.
Yeah, it was good. Well, that's wraps up UFC 284. As always, we told you about all the money we lost, and yet how our picks were definitely good anyway. Tune in later this week. I'm going to try to drop one for the fight night coming up, and always catch us next time to see how badly we perform in all our future picks.
Hey, it's only up for here for me after going 1 of 7 on my picks. So anyways, thank you for watching. As always, I'm Kaci, joined by...
And I'm Taylor.
And we will see you in the next one.